So in picking, really applying this summer, and picking, there are a lot of medical schools, and picking a medical school, what are some of the most important things you are considering, including any metrics apart from GPA and MCAT that went into your decision?
GPA and MCAT are important. I think having reach schools like Harvard, and then schools that are within your range of GPA, MCAT, and then schools that are, nothing's ever a safety in medical school applications. Never assume that any school's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna get into that school. No, they're having to deal with thousands of applicants too, and it's a lot of luck of the draw.
There are no promises.
Yeah, never. And so you're gonna have to kind of pick and choose a few. Like, there's 100+ med schools, so you're just gonna have to go through and see geographically which one you like. Maybe some of them have certain programs that speak to your background more, and that might be a kind of incentive for them to take you on, or for you to go there. Definitely look at the GPA and MCAT range. That's a really big one as well. But also, you just never know in this process. I went in thinking I would be happy with any medical school whatsoever in the U.S. Like, I don't want to go to the Caribbean. I don't want to go like really far to the East Coast, but I will if I need to. And I applied to 30 schools like Dave, and it's a lot of money. Try to save up money as you go along in the process of college and whatnot. It's an investment in your future. But you also do want to give yourself a little benefit of the doubt too. Apply to some reach schools. Apply to schools that you like. And this is not me bragging or anything, but I got interviews at schools I never would have dreamed of. I got interviews at UCSF, Stanford, UCLA, and I ended up getting waitlisted at all three, which blew my mind. I didn't know that I could have gotten that far in the application process. And I think if you are genuine to your experiences, you write about them genuinely, you convey them in a coherent, passionate fashion to your interviewer, it'll come across. And you never know, like, this is the whole crapshoot thing with med school. Like, apply early and hope that it's less of a crapshoot in that regard.
Sometimes your interview goes really well, and sometimes your interview just goes terrible.
Yeah, you just never know.
My UCLA interview was awful.
Terrible.
He asked me about every terrible thing that's ever happened to me before.
Yeah.
He just wanted to know just about the most traumatic experiences in great detail. And so that was a tough interview. And, I got a similar story. I had interviews at OHSU, it's the #2 school, UCLA. I think I ended up getting waitlisted at one. I think I got waitlisted in like August for UCLA for some reason.
UCLA is horrible.
They're
They're terrible with their timeline.
Each school will have a different, and I was like, oh, there's no way I got to UCLA. I should just commit to UCI. And so I did. But you'll have interviews that I've had. My UCI interview went great, but my interviewer is asking me, for some reason he started talking about ice skating. I knew nothing about ice. I was just playing along, and it really just turned out really well. I asked him some really good questions about some of the things around him. I said, oh, I saw that you were at UCSF. I work at UCSF, and so you build those connections around you.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So this question is for Jeremiah. So what challenges did you face as an undergrad, and how did you overcome them?
Challenges I faced as an undergrad. Should I go through my
Anything you
spiel
want.
first, or?
Sorry.
Oh no, it's definitely okay. It's definitely okay. Really insightful stuff. So let's see. I was an undergraduate at UCI. I'm from Corona, so I'm not from here, and so I visit every so often, but I'm not from here. I went to UCI for my undergrad, and I applied last spring. So like they said, it's a full year ordeal. I applied last June, and I won't start till this upcoming fall. And so I ended up applying to 25 schools, which is a little on the lower end. And so the unique thing is I applied both MD and DO, which I know a lot of, I don't know if you guys know a lot about the DO stuff, but I applied to both. And so I ended up having to fill out AMCAS and the DO equivalent. So I was doing both application services at one time. I had to make 2 personal statements because the character limit's completely different. And so I couldn't just copy one and paste it over. And so I ended up having to cut a whole paragraph off to fit it into the DO equivalent. And so, yeah, so I was juggling both of those things, and they all asked for different letters, so I had to get a lot of letters of recommendation. And so, let's see, yeah, and so fortunately for me, I worked as kind of a TA for a lot of courses, and so I was, instead of making that initiative, going to office hours and trying to jump over all the other kids, trying to talk to the professor. I was required to talk to the professor. I was paid to talk to the professor, and so that was a really nice opportunity. For those of you that are attending Irvine, I did LARC. That's the program, and so that's something I'd highly recommend because I guess you get a little you have more scheduled time to talk to those professors, whereas instead of trying to go to office hours and try and climb over like the 20 other people trying to like say, oh, hi, I'm blah blah, and I like this and that, and so let's see. Challenges I faced in undergrad. Challenges would definitely be balancing everything. Because when I came to college, I wanted to do everything. I wanted to join this, join that, do this school. I danced on a dance team my first year. And I guess the biggest challenge was to balance it all and to make sacrifices when necessary. I ended up having to drop a lot of things because as much as like these guys were saying, GPA and MCAT, it's weighed differently, but it's still weighed pretty heavily. And like the presenter said, like schools have a computerized filter, and just because you have like super amazing stuff, like extracurricular activities, if you don't make that pass that filter, a human doesn't actually even see those activities in the first place. So definitely look into that. And let's see. I think Kimberly covered like a lot of stuff. But I guess the biggest struggle would be to learn how to balance stuff and to make sacrifices when necessary, because I've had to eventually leave my dance team because my grades were slipping. And we practiced from 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. and that was something I couldn't do and study at the same time. And so it was definitely a difficult thing to leave things that I actually really did enjoy. And that would be the biggest challenge, yeah. And so, yeah.
Question.
Yes.
What do you think helped? What do you think like made you stood out on your application, and what do you think might have hurt your application? But like you tried to make that up with like maybe
Okay.
something else.
So what made me stand out is, so like I said, I'm from Corona, but like I was born in Seattle actually. I was born in Seattle and I spent a number of years in Florida and stuff. So I've seen like multiple cultures, multiple cultural norms. But what helped me stand out is when you're filling out those secondaries, a lot of the questions from those secondaries will ask, oh, are you a good fit for X city? Like I have a lot of cities, like for example, Camden, New Jersey. Like I applied to a school in Camden, New Jersey and they're like, oh, how can you fit into our community? And having not known anything about Camden, New Jersey, I had to Google it. And so I've never even heard of the city before, but I could attest to the fact that I've been to so many places. I never went to the same school for all of elementary school, middle school, or high school. I've been to multiple schools and multiple cultural norms. And that, I guess, helped me stand out. So, because when you're a physician, you see people from different walks of life. You see different, like, races, genders, ethnicities, and stuff like that. And so I think that that's something that helped me stand out. Let's see, things that hurt my application. I would say my stats. I had a pretty competitive GPA, but my MCAT score was a little on the lower side. And so I knew that I could get in somewhere, and so rather than take it again and push my timeline off, because like they said, it's a whole year process, and so I was confident that I could get somewhere now, and so I would like to start sooner rather than later, and then, yeah. And so I think that hurt my application a little bit, but I did make up with it with the other parts of the application, where it'd be extracurricular activities. I shadowed an MD physician for a long time. I worked in a hospital. I worked in a free clinic in Orange, Lasonic. I don't know if you guys have heard of it. Let's see, what else did I do? I was part of a pre-medical fraternity. Shoot, college seems so long ago. But yeah, and just very recently, I didn't put this on my AMCAS, but I did mention in a lot of my interviews. After graduation, when I moved back to Corona in like that Riverside area, I was an after-school program leader at a disadvantaged school. And it's just very difficult to see, like, some kids are like 4th, 5th grade and they don't know, but it helped me to stand out, because a lot of people think that to apply to medical school you have to have this checklist. Like, I had a clinical experience at a hospital, but they kind of missed the boat on the significance of it. And for me, like, I picked and chose things that I really wanted to do, and that would kind kind of fit into that nature because I wasn't like doing any, it wasn't health related, it was educationally related, but it shows, I guess, that you want to work in these communities, which a lot of med schools value. And so yeah, if that answers your question.
So I was curious, how did you, or did you address, I guess, your MCAT score in your application? If you did, where in the application would you, I guess,
Address
yeah,
the, okay.
address.
So let's see, for some schools they ask, oh, are there any inconsistencies in your application? And that's where I would mention I didn't do as well on the MCAT as probably other applicants have for XYZ reason. And so, and I only chose to take it once for XYZ reason as well. And so there are places for some schools. Other schools they don't even ask because I did like, it's still in the acceptable range, but it's not like, it's inside of the acceptable range, but on the lower end. And so, for some schools, they think that, oh, that you didn't do that bad at all. And so, I'm not going to say, yeah, I did bad, and then stuff like that. But there's opportunities to give that. Like in the secondary, for a lot of schools I applied to, there was a question that says, oh, explain any inconsistencies. So yeah, question.
Oh, the question for Jeremy, I know you recently got accepted to Loma Linda.
I interviewed at Loma Linda.
Oh, Loma Linda. But
I'm still waiting.
And I'm just curious, like, because I heard Loma Linda, you need to have a extra letter from the pastor or from like, if I have the person who have the master in or PhD in theology, I don't know if that's the equivalent to the letter that submit for Loma Linda.
So for Loma Linda, if you guys haven't heard, it's a Seventh-day Adventist institution. And fortunately enough, I'm a Seventh-day Adventist, and so when they ask for that pastoral letter of recommendation, what they're looking for is to see, like, if they're looking for your church involvement, because their mission is to further the mission of Christ, and they're looking for that church involvement, and they're looking for that you fit that mission. Like they were talking about, every school is different, and some schools are research-based, some schools are mission-based. And even if you apply with like a 3.9 and like a 39, if you don't fit that mission, then you might not get that offer of acceptance. And so I'm not completely sure about the Masters of Theology thing because the main goal is to gauge your church involvement, just like an MD would gauge your clinical experience. And so yeah.
Good touch on that. Sorry, I'm actually on labor and delivery at White Memorial right now, which is where a lot of the Loma Linda students go through. I'd say about 50% of what I heard from the students is about half their class, about 50% are Seventh-day Adventist students, because that fits in with the mission of their university and their culture. And when you rotate in the hospital, it's a part of Glendale Adventist, and White Memorial is part of Adventist Health. So there's no caffeine, there's no meat, there's certain restrictions for spiritual reasons that you have to respect during that time. And so they, like Jeremiah said, they want to see what your involvement is, and do you fit in with the culture of that university or not?